Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Testimony Tuesday. I am BJ Garrett, Executive Director for Christ-Centered Abortion Recovery and Education Care. Welcome to our program. Today, I am here with a new friend that I just recently met through social media. Go social media. Michelle. Michelle, welcome to our Testimony Tuesday program.
Thank you, BJ. It's nice to be here.
Thanks. Well, just tell us a little bit about who you are, maybe a little bit about your family or your ministry, and then we'll just dive right in.
So I was born and raised in Louisiana. I now live in Austin, Texas. I have two grown children. My son lives in California and my daughter lives in Portland, Oregon. And so I now work from home, and I help women and men who have been through abortion experiences to find healing and closure through my organization called Tears to Treasures.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for what you do. I look forward to how we can partner in the future with our two ministries. And obviously we have very similar missions in what we're doing. We both are trying to reach men and women who have been hurt by abortion. So thank you. Well, let's just dive in. And for me, y'all that are watching, this is a treat because most of the time when I interview the guests on our program, I know them, or at least I know about them. I know their story. This is my first time hearing your story. And so I'm excited. I'm gonna learn right along with our audience. And so will you just take us back to that season of your life and just share about your abortion, please?
Okay, yeah. So that back in a long time ago, so about 1980, I found myself in an unplanned pregnancy, and I was not yet graduated from high school. So I really was in no position to have a child. And on top of that, the father and I were no longer together. He had just been cheating on me, and I was already hurt, and then I found out I was pregnant on top of that. So I really didn't want to involve him I didn't want to involve him in the decision because I felt like I didn't know what he would say. I just felt like we're not together any longer, so I need to do whatever I feel is best. And I felt that it was best for me I didn't even know what an abortion was. So, so I had older friends, and it was my older friends who were already graduated. They were adults, and one of them, or a few of them, said, you should just have an abortion. And I didn't know what abortion was. And because again, abortion had only become legal in the 70s. So this was very right after it was legal. And I was still in school. Like, it's not something that I knew anything. I didn't even know what it was. And so she told me, the way she explained it though was like, well, you just go in for this procedure and you're in and out, and then it's like you've never been pregnant. And I thought, well, that sounds like a great solution. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So it was at that moment that I really went into denial. Well, I was in denial. I feel like I was in denial when I found out I was pregnant. I was like, I can't believe it. No way, I'm not pregnant. And then because I really didn't know much about it, I was just like, oh, okay. So I'm just going to go, and it's just a blob of tissue, and I'm gonna have my period, and it's just gonna be like I started my period, but I just had a little appointment in between. Literally, that is exactly what I thought, and that's what I hoped would happen. So I went through with it. The procedure was traumatic, as most of us that have had abortions know, and I wasn't prepared for that. And then but
so I don't want you to share any like vulgar details or traumatic things, but can you just share what kind of abortion did you have, and was it I'm assuming it was a surgical abortion?
It was, yeah. We didn't have any pills back then,
Right.
know. So yeah, it was I think they gave me I really blocked a lot of it out, but like details, but I think they gave me like a Valium to relax me, calm me down. That did not work. I totally felt everything. I heard everything. I was really was like, I wasn't getting up that I wanted to leave. I was moving because it was hurting. And they were just very abrupt and cold, like, you just need to be still. You're woman enough to have sex. You're woman enough, you can handle this. And that's how they treated me. And I was not prepared for that. But so that's what I mean. That was traumatic. That is a traumatic experience. And our body stores that. Okay. So, um, and I felt the injection to numb my cervix or whatever they did, my uterus. And then I heard the suctioning, and I wanted to see, like, I was curious, but they don't want you to, they're like, hold you down, to where you can't see what's going on. And so, yeah, it was so then after the procedure, I had to go in a little waiting area, and I just couldn't wait to get out of there. So I just, stayed as like the minimum amount of time, and I was out that door and on my way back to my house or my home, wherever. And and that was just the beginning of my entire life changing. That I had no idea. I cried. I cried every single night. I I didn't want to live because of the pain. I didn't want to live in that emotional state, but I didn't know what to do with my emotions. So I just started covering it up, started pushing the emotions down, lied again. I allowed myself to stay in denial because I continued to lie about it. If anyone, even, like, I told my best friend, and then word got out, so people would come to me and ask me if it was true, and I'd say no. And it just was a long thing, and it went on for years and years, like 10 years. But what happened is I ended up getting married and having 2 children. And still no one really knew. I didn't really talk about it. It was the past. And um well, not only does our body store those memories as trauma, but our mind definitely does. And our subconscious mind, like, we don't forget stuff. And I didn't really know this, but so that was, so about 15, 20, wait, 10, between 10, 15 years later, I woke up and from a dream, and I had many dreams about, like, a little baby, a little boy, and he looked like the father of the baby. And, like, I never put it together that it was related. I really didn't. I mean, I just would think that's weird, that's odd. But I woke up and some words came to me, and it was like a poem, about my aborted baby. And I was a mom then. So I had a son and a daughter, and they were 3 and 4 at the time. And I remember thinking that I don't want to continue living like this. I don't want to continue living the lie. I don't want to raise my children with this in my heart. And I don't want that. So I really, really had to figure out, like, what do I need to do? How do I heal? And I was doing Bible studies. I was leading Bible studies in my home in Indonesia. So through those Bible studies, through me really focusing in on the abortion experience, I was able to really, really have this long years of, deep, deep healing, really deep, to the point that when I felt like, okay, I feel like I want to tell somebody, and I thought, this is crazy, but it reminds me of when Jesus heals anyone in the Bible. Like, they want to go and tell everyone, they're not ashamed anymore. They're not ashamed because he forgave them and he healed them, and they're set free. So they, like, that's what I felt like. I want to tell. But again, what happened is one of my good friends said, no, I don't think you should, people are going to judge you again. Like, so that still was a recurring theme in my life. And so God allowed me to have a trip to Israel. And I was living in Indonesia, so it wasn't that far. So I went to Israel with some friends, and I remember walking the streets where Jesus walked, and just being in that country. And I was standing on the top of this mountain, like overlooking, like, all of, like, Jerusalem, Israel, all that. And I felt this strong, strong presence, and God just saying, Michelle, I want you to go And I want you to tell everyone what I've done for you because I want to do the same for them. And this was in the year 2000. And yeah, wow, 20 years ago. And it would feel like it was yesterday. So I knew that to me was a very, very determining factor in my life. Like I knew at that point, that's why God took like it took me years to heal from it, but I was ready to go and do that. Like I was totally ready. So I went back to again, I'm living in Indonesia. So we moved and like that year we moved to Texas, and I started a pregnancy help center. And because I didn't know, that's the funny thing, we didn't have internet. So I remember feeling like praying and asking God, like, how am I supposed to do what you're asking me to do? Go and tell everyone. How is that gonna happen? Like, do I go to Walmart and just tell as people walk in? Like, I had no idea. Well, do you know when you ask God, He always gives you the answer? Because I'm in my car driving home and I hear on the radio station about a world's largest baby shower at the pregnancy center. I'm like, what is a pregnancy center? What is a baby shower? Like, what is this? Okay, I remembered the number. I got home and called him immediately and I was like, I'm very interested. I want to come and volunteer. And then so that's what happened. So I went to the pregnancy center and I got trained and I started counseling. And almost every single person that sat in front of me had either had an abortion or was wanting an abortion. And so it's about them, not us, when we're doing that, we're in that room with them. And so many times they're telling me this, and then one of the questions is, have you ever had an abortion? And so they're telling me and they're talking about it and they're crying or they're upset, and then they say something like, well, yeah, but you wouldn't understand. And it's like at that time I would just say, no, I do understand. And then they'd look up and I would say, yep, I had an abortion too. And they're like, you did? And like they just connected. But then they'd leave. And so it was really bothering me, because it was hard to get them to come back, even though we do follow up. So I kept going to the director and I was like, hey, when are we going to be offering the group? Blah, blah, blah. So then finally one day she called me and she goes, the person who was supposed to do it is not able to do it. You've been asking about this. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yes. So I immediately went get trained and went back, started my group. And I always had groups going on once a week at the pregnancy center. And so during that time, so the women that would come and they had an abortion, they would sign up and they would join. And then I would speak in churches and different places, and then they would hear and they'd sign up. So I was doing that. And a lady contacted the pregnancy center and she wanted to make a movie about a girl who had an abortion, found healing, and went to pregnancy center. So they used my story and she had me write my entire story. And in my story, in my real life story, I mentioned that one of my favorite dolls was Holly Hobby because she wanted to know a lot of details. So she named the movie Holly's Story.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's a great resource. But anyway, so Holly's Story was produced, and we use that, and it helps people to see that abortion may be the solution to an unplanned pregnancy, but it comes with consequences, and it comes with very serious consequences. And most of the time, women do go into that either feeling like I did, or they're coerced by the man or someone in their life to have an abortion. And when that situation happens, they are very, very vulnerable to feeling the trauma and the remorse and the regret and the anger and the guilt and the shame that follows an abortion. If they're in that situation, if they're really, not really wanting that abortion, or even if they really did, I wanted it, but I didn't really know. But no one knows. That's the thing. I can tell anyone what might happen, but no one knows till they go through with it what it really feels like.
That's right.
And that's the hard part.
It is. One of the things that I say, because like I knew going into, I knew what I was doing. I made a very, I won't say very educated decision, but I knew that I was going in to end my child's life. And so, but I did not know what I was doing. And the instant that that procedure is done and the machines are turned off and your womb is empty, it's just like, oh my gosh, like there's no do-overs, you can't rewind. And that the severity of that hits, and for a lot of women, there's that instant relief almost, because okay, my problem is gone. But the relief, as you know, does not last very long, if it even comes at all. And then the reality sets in, what you've just done. And there's no do-overs. There's no do-overs.
No, it is not a temporary solution. It is a permanent solution.
Right.
And being it permanent, that's why they live in guilt and regret and guilt for years. Most women don't even realize it for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
10 to 20
Absolutely.
years
Yeah.
is
So,
average.
yeah. And what we see at CARE often is it's very bare minimum at least 5 years, but it usually at least
Mhm.
10, 15, 20, 25 years past the date of their abortion before they finally were like, oh my goodness, I need help. I finally see that this goes back to that date.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, there's so many signs that we don't connect. Like, hearing a vacuum cleaner, going to the doctor and not realizing for all these years why he has to constantly like open your leg, and it's like because it's a trigger and our body stores that in memory and our mind stores it, but we may not associate it, the connection that it has to do with the abortion experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, thank you so much. So before I want to make sure that everyone knows how to connect with you. So, and also where do they find the movie Holly Story?
I will share a link with you so you can share it,
Okay.
on there because it was produced by Crosswind Productions, but I don't believe she sells it like through there anymore. So I
Okay.
have to, find out. But so for me, as I am at Tears, my website is Tears, TEARSTO treasures.com. And that's the best place to find me. But I'm also every day very active on Facebook, which is how you and I met. Michelle Durand, Durand. And I also have a Tears to Treasures Hope Help Healing page. And I have a group. So if women have abortions, like I have a private group for them, and it's connected to my Tears to Treasures Facebook page. So that is the best way to reach out to me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, as we kind of wrap up this episode, any last things you want to share to the men and women that are watching today? And I'll just let you kind of wrap us up.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the men. Men feel like they are forgotten about, like they are not, uh, that they should not be able to grieve and that they should not feel and they don't have a right. They feel left out. That's what men say all the time to me. I feel so left out, but I'm hurting just like, not just like you women, but I'm hurting. So, anyone who is contemplating abortion, I hope that through your testimonial Tuesdays, they will understand that, number one, it is a permanent solution. And number two, we never know what is going to happen after, but there are always consequences. However, there's always hope. So if anyone, man or woman, has been through an abortion experience, paid for it, brought someone, and they have that guilt, that shame, that regret, and that pain and anguish and all the memory, like they just can't get over it or move on, I highly recommend that they seek out some type of healing program. I have had so many people say to me, I've tried counseling, I've tried therapy. No, unless that person has been through an abortion, they're not going to get it. So, that's why people like myself and you, BJ, doing this, because we have been through abortion, we understand it and we know what they're going through, and they're never alone and they don't have to go through the healing alone. And most of all, they are worthy of healing. They are worthy of healing. They may feel broken, but they are whole and they are worthy. They just have a broken heart, and that can be healed.
Yeah, I love that so much. Wow. Well, thank you so much. And I love what you do. I love the groups, and I see you, active in some of those. And so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, just like my new friend Michelle
Mhm.
is, if you have abortion in your past, please reach out. There are resources available. You do not have to go on this journey alone. And like for me, I mean, well, and for Michelle and for most of us, we lived decades with
Yeah.
pain, and we didn't tell anybody. And I wouldn't do anything to do with abortion or pro-life, even though for many years in this season I was pro-life. But I couldn't be around anybody talking about abortion, because then they would just know that I had chosen abortion, which was sort of ridiculous. But that fear is so real. Um,
Mhm.
and I didn't have to, and I love, we visited, briefly before we started recording. And one thing you said that I love so much, and this is so what we're passionate about, is meeting men and women where they're at. And you know what? Maybe you're not serving in full-time ministry. I was serving in full-time ministry when I got healing from my abortions. I've had two. Um, but wherever you're at in your journey, maybe you love the Lord for many years, and then you chose abortion, and you're like, I can never go back to church. That's a lie.
Mhm.
You can go
Yes.
back, and there is help available. There is always hope in Jesus Christ. Or maybe you don't even know who Jesus is. Maybe you're like, I don't want anything to do with this Jesus guy you're talking about. I don't know who that is. I've been hurt by people in the church, scarred by Christianity, and I don't want any part of that. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that also, please don't fall for that, because that is what the enemy wants for you so bad. He wants you to stay away from the restoration of Jesus Christ. And yes, there's mean people, and there's mean people that wear the sign of Christianity. But most of us who just love Jesus, and we love you, and we want to walk this journey with you, and we're going to meet you right where you're at. And we're not going to expect you to quote scriptures, or as you said, Michelle, earlier, like go to Walmart and shout your story to whoever walks in. That's not fun. We just want to walk this journey of healing with you. And there are resources like care and Tears to Treasures, and more importantly, just people to talk to begin breaking those chains of bondage that the enemy has on you. And we want to help you. And I don't know a whole lot about your ministry, but for care, like, we don't charge for our services. We want you to come through our ministry. And if there is a fee for Tears to Treasures, if you need that and we can partner with you in some way, we never want someone to not get healing because of a financial burden. That's just not, that we don't want that. So if you need these ministries and you need help, you need the hope of Jesus Christ, please contact us today. That's all I have for today's program. Michelle, again, thank you so much. I will include all of the links to her website and Facebook pages in the little show notes of this program. And until next week, we will see you then.
Bye.